Hi, this is Heather Stovold, and I'm the Smart Genealogist. Thank you for joining me today on Family History the Smart Way. Today, we're going to be having a look at how to enter a death record into the Clooz for Genealogy software program. So, to enter a death record, we are starting on the Information tab, which is usually the default start screen. However, that was configurable. So you're on the Information tab, you click on Civil Records and then Vital Records. You want a death record, so we're going to click on the death record, and it shows you here all the death records that you've already entered. We want to create a new one, so we're going to click on the New button. So here is the entry screen for a death record. It's very similar to the entry screen for a birth record or a marriage record, but has fields appropriate for most death records from most countries. Clooz starts you off on the source screen. I usually go to the Media tab, which will allow me to drag and drop the picture of the document that I am entering. If you do not have a picture, you do not have to link one, and you can link it later if you at some point get it. All right, so here we have a screen where we can have a look at the picture that we have. And the first thing I would do is to increase that screen so that we can see the information. If it's rotated, these buttons will rotate the document or the picture 90 degrees or smaller amounts as required. And I'm just going to click on that to remove the video controls. And now we have the picture at a large enough point to be able to read the information. So the first thing we are doing is entering the information about this document itself in general. The personal file ID, you can decide what that is. You can leave it blank if you don't number or otherwise identify your documents, but I highly recommend that you have some sort of system in place to identify the documents. And you can see that with my system, it's the first part of the file name. Now we're looking for the document date, and where that is found will vary from document to document. This does not have a specific document date other than the date of death. On my British records, there's usually a date that the death was registered, and I would use that. As there isn't in this case, I will be using the actual date of death. And that is in 1937. Document number is for use for any numbers on the document that may help identify it if somebody wanted to order it. I know on the British documents that I get, most of the document numbers or the numbers on the document are not useful, so I don't record them. For this particular document, there is a master number, which would be a document number. I do not know if it is helpful or not, but I am going to record it just in case. Okay, so now it's asking what physical location does this document cover? And in this case, it's Canada, and Ontario is the province. A lot of Canadian documents do not have counties, but I noticed that on the place of death, there is a county, so I'm going to enter that as well. Hastings. And the city or town is Belleville. And then the date accessed, that would be the date that you are looking at it. And I just click on today. The user rating, you can have both negative or positive ratings. and it's up to you to decide how you want to use it. I am currently not using it, but may once I'm really strongly evaluating the records that I've got. You have an opportunity here for a document description, and that is it for the basic document information. So now we want to add in the information on the people and places that are mentioned. So the name of the deceased here is Arthur Ward. Usually, for a lot of the records that I enter, I just create a new person. But if you know that you have the person already in there, you can click on link, which we will do later. So I click on new, and this middle portion, or the upper portion, if you're not looking at the media picture, has now changed, and this is information about the person. You can go back and forth by clicking on the show main document information or show details for the selected subject. There is no real page number on this particular document, so I am at the surname. And in this case, his surname was Ward and his name was Arthur. There's no prefixes or suffixes, and he is the decedent. Because he is the main person that this document is about, we are check marking him off as the primary person. This makes it easier when you're looking at lists to see that, yes, he is the person who died. He's not like a witness or a relative. His date of death is the 7th of September 1937. It does ask for it to separate from the document date because the document date and the death date are not always the same. It's Canada, so there's no social security number, so we just ignore any fields that don't apply. It does not on this one specify that he's a male, but I am going to make that assumption. And we see here that he was 63 years old, so we'll enter that into the age. Color and race is mostly on documents from the United States. And it does not mention his marital status, so we will leave that blank. It also doesn't specify for sure his citizenship, so we will move this down. Now, they haven't made this overly clear, but this house number and address information is technically of where he lives, because a little further down we have the place of death. And it does tend to make assumptions, so I often actually exit that out. Probably lives in Canada, but I have seen people that have died in a country when they were on vacation or visiting someone, so I'm not even going to make that assumption. Okay, so facility or address is for the place of death, and it does not really specify anything other than Belleville, Hastings, so, and that has already been defaulted to place in there. But if it said like General Hospital, or had the address of the house where he died, or other information like that, you would put it here under faculty or facility or address. Okay, his birth date it didn't give, and we don't need to do any calculations because Clooz will calculate the approximate birth date when we save this whole document. We do have his place of birth as England, so we will enter that in. And his occupation here is listed as a farmer. It does not list his spouse anywhere. And again, it didn't even say whether he was married or not. It does, however, give his parents' names. And we do enter it on his information, but we are also going to enter these in people, his parents afterwards, as subjects on this document. So his father was George Ward, and he was born in England. And his mother's name was Emily Lake, and she was also born in England. Cause of death, many death entries will list what the causes of death, contributory causes, duration of illnesses, and other information such as that. Uh, this one, this record is really and more of a extract. All right, so I'm going to scroll down. Physician, address, informant, undertaker. None of this information is available on this particular document. And you have a spot for remarks. But that's basically it for Arthur Ward. So now it does specify here the names of his parents. Now, as I've been entering a lot of documents for George Ward and Emily Lake in the last couple of days, I do know that I have them in there, and I'm quite sure that it is the right people. So I'm going to do a link. So I click on the link button, and up comes the screen of the people that I have. And it doesn't do them exactly in alphabetical order, but I'm going to just start typing in some of the information. So the father's name was George Ward. So I could just type that in, or I could type in a part of it because I'm using starts with, and I hit on the search button. Now with the search button, it has highlighted a George Ward, but it's not a guarantee that that's the only George Ward. See here, there's another one. So you can, I believe, either filter and see just specifically the George Wards that you have, or you could, scroll down and check. So it looks like I have 3 George Wards, and it's not showing any birth or death information for any of them. But on this one, George Ward, there are family members that we know have been found, and Arthur Frederick is listed actually a couple of times, which means I probably need to merge a couple of Arthur Fredericks. But as there is the Arthur Frederick and the spouse of Emily Ann Lake, I'm going to click and link on that person. And I'm going to click on link selected. So here we go. We've got George Ward. Now you'll notice here it says name and document. It just says Ward. And that's probably because I had the copy selected, subject details selected, which I usually only select on something like a census. In any case, yeah, I would not have personally selected that because it does remember some of the information, including the date of death, which we don't want on here because that would say George Ward had died on that day. So I deleted that. We will do that without this selected when we link Emily Lake in a moment. So we know that his last name is Ward and his name was George, and that he is the father of the person that died. He is not the primary person, and that's about all that we need to enter in at this point. Over here on the right hand side, you can see it has opened up the subject tab when we're working on a person, and it does provide the information that we know. And I can add in here that we know he was born in England, so that we don't lose that information. That's about all the information we need to add because he wasn't the one that died. So let's go and notice I now have this unselected, so it's not going to copy any information from any of the people already linked. And we are going to link Emily Lake. And we'll just do a quick search. And we have, let's make it a little more specific. And we have Emily Ann Lake. It looks like we have a couple of them, so I will be evaluating them later to see whether they're the same person or not. And because we don't have too many lakes, I'm not going to bother doing a filter. This Emily Ann Lake, I have that she is married, has a married surname of Ward. She's married to George Ward, and Arthur Frederick is one of the children. So I'm pretty sure this is the right one. So I click on the selection and link selected. And she is there. Now, again, although we have linked her, we need to put in the information as seen in the document. So the document just says that her name is Lake and that her given name is Emily. And her role is mother. And that's basically the information. I'm going to add in the born in England, even though I pretty much know that. And you can see that even though this document only says Emily Lake, in the actual person record, it knows that the name is Emily Ann Lake and that she was born in England. Now, I would look through and see if there was any other information. I often, if there's an address, I often add a real estate subject into the subject list. I also often add in the doctor's name if there's a doctor, because sometimes families use the same doctor for a long time. And that can help also identify that they're the same person. In this case, it's a really short record, so that is the information on the record. Now, before we leave, we want to go through all of these tabs. We already did the media tab, and the subject tab changes with each person. And then we want to make sure we enter the source. Now, Clooz does not provide a exact proper source citation, but it does allow you to record all of the information. Now, this particular document we got from the Office of the Registrar General in Canada, and so I just select that for the location. I can put in any ID numbers I use for the source. I can say it's stored in my upper file cabinet or wherever I'm storing in the physical copy. For the source name and source title, one is used as the official name, and one is used when you're searching through the sources. I keep them the same at this moment, so I don't remember which is which. And this is a death entry. Now this one is a little bit different from any I've done, so I will be doing some more editing because it's not an entry, it's a death and information extracted for genealogy is what I've put on a couple of records. It's the first time I've done a death for this type of source. The person's name, normally I'd say for Arthur Ward, but with this one, with it being an extract, it's somehow, I prefer the dash for those. And then I just click on there and do a Control C and then a Control V to copy it to the title. And the person's name was Arthur Ward. It's probably, I'm pretty sure it's Arthur Frederick Ward, but I want to put it as it was in the document. Okay, now we've entered the source information as we have, and we will do a quick click on events. And I find it's useful to click on auto generate events first. It usually makes all of the events that we need. So we have his occupation, we have the birth record, or not the birth record, the calculated birth. And of course, we have the death information, including the other people that were listed on the death record. The next tab we want to make sure that we do is the family tab. And a lot of records work well for the suggest families. This one did pretty good. It noticed that George and Emily Ann Lake are parents, but it did not add Arthur Ward. So in this case, I'm going to right click and say manage family members. And we're just going to add Arthur Ward here as a child. If I had, instead of doing suggest families, had clicked on the add new family button, I would have gotten a similar screen. I just would have had to have selected everybody and what the relationships are. So I added Arthur Ward onto this family here, so I'm going to click OK to save it. And we have now entered in everything, so I can now save the record.